Welcome to week 3 of the AUDL season, where it's officially time for New York, DC. These two powerhouse franchises have together created many of the league's most iconic moments. And tonight, these fierce rivals meet again, both determined to make an early season statement. The next must-see chapter between the New York Empire and the DC Breeze begins right now. It's been a rainy Saturday in Washington, D.C., but thankfully the precipitation has subsided, and have we got a showdown for you. The New York Empire are 2-0. The D.C. Breeze are 2-0. And one of these teams will be the favorite in the AUDL at the end of the night. Welcome to our broadcast booth. Evan Lepler with Charlie Eisenhood. These are the games that you get really excited for. The New York Empire have kind of redefined the standard of excellence in the league, and they've taken down D.C. They won the championship last year. Is it crazy to think the Empire might be better than they were a year ago?
I think they've added depth. I think that they've looked very sharp so far. No reason to think that they're not better than they were a year ago. When you look at the roster they put out on the field, lots of familiar faces, but it's that back third of the roster that's gotten better. And look, everybody's had this game circled. Number 1 versus number 2 in the rankings. New York's had it circled. DC's had it circled. Fans have had it circled. Can't wait for this one.
As good as it gets. Hopefully it lives up to the hype. We could talk about any number of MVPs in the open, but we're going to eschew the MVPs for the other superstars, like Jack Williams, the playoff MVP from a season ago.
Well, throwing the buzzer beater winner 19-18 against this DC team, and he has just been fantastic, picking up right where he left off, getting to the front cone after the block. That was a great sequence earlier this season, just breaking people down out there. And you look at the numbers so far this season, he's been fantastic, even though it's the defense that's really been running the show. Already this season, 2.5 goals, 2.5 assists a game. That's what he's averaging, and just so fantastic, and he shows up biggest in the biggest moments. Playoff Jack will be back again. You can count on it.
The AI-generated image in the top left kind of brings out the Wilmington villain out of him a little bit. He's a nice guy on and off the field, but he is ruthless, especially in late-game situations. No one knows that better than the DC Breeze, who have their own slew of MVPs. We talk about Rowan McDonald all the time, but Christian Boxley has become something of a superhero for this DC offense, too.
Well, he's just been getting better and better every single season. And now we hear players talking about him being the best player on the team at practice. And he has been coming through with some huge blocks and just driving this offense in the cutting space. I mean, so often it feels like when DC needs somebody to show up for a big play, there's Christian Boxley. And he was great last season, but he's been even better so far this year.
New teammate on the O-line, Ben Ort, is going to make his DC Breeze debut tonight. You may remember he was an 18-year-old phenom from the Netherlands 5 years ago in 2018. Today he joins the DC Breeze, and he'll be playing offense, working as a cutter alongside Christian Boxley. Daryl Stanley has had this game circled on his calendar all year long. He knew Marquez Brownlee would be here. MKBHD's fans certainly bring some energy to the proceedings as well. But you don't need to oversell it. New York and DC, every game matters. Every game counts. There's so much history. Can't wait to see what happens next. The stakes are always massive every time New York and DC get together. Heck of an atmosphere at Carlini Field at Catholic University. The Boston Glory overcame a 10-3 first-half deficit earlier today against Philadelphia. So the Glory improved to 2-0, but the Breeze or the Empire battling to get to 3-0 tonight. Toronto got its first win of the year with a comfortable victory over Montreal in the Rush's home opener at Varsity Stadium this afternoon as well. A 10-game Saturday in the AUDL, week 3 of the season, and this is going to be mighty interesting over the next couple of hours. DC begins on offense. It's the unit that has struggled at the start of the season, so we get a quick look at Johnny Malks and Andrew Roy as Marquez Brownlee sets the mark on this opening possession. Here's Boxley with miles of space underneath, picked up by Antoine Davis. And a turnover. Malks. Some contact with Fortin. It goes uncalled, and a quick break chance for the Empire.
I mean, they get a great first cut from Boxley, and then there's just nothing for the reset, and a terrible start for DC's offense.
Ben Katz over to Ethan Fortin. John Randolph, maybe the MVP of this Empire team so far this year. How good is the 2022 Callahan winner out of Brown been? Marquez Brownlee to Ben Yacht, a two-time MVP, and he overthrows Antoine Davis.
It's hard to do. But that's good offense from New York. Just a slight miscue on the final pass, and DC gets to breathe a sigh of relief.
Goodness. An interesting first 60 seconds. New York has bemoaned its turnovers as a D-line so far this year, only converting around 53% of their break chances. They'd like to be better. They still had two huge wins, by 9 over Philly in week 1, by 13 over Toronto last week. Philly took Toronto to the brink a week ago, or took DC to the brink a week ago. Boxley catches that angled one, and Roy is open deep, but he goes underneath. It's Edmonds, and Boxley has the breeze score.
Christian Boxley doing a little bit of everything on that point. Well, it's fortunate for DC to get off the field with a hold here.
Sure looked like Yacht had Antoine Davis for the early statement.
Wide open. I mean, just a little too quick with the pass to the front cone. And then Boxley just running hard the whole point, and I don't feel like there was ever a defender on him at any point.
So DD's offense has been the key that we've been discussing all week long.
Well, it's been the talk of the entire league. They simply have to get a little bit better. And talking to the coaches before the game, Daryl Stanley saying that this is to be expected when they're adding new pieces to the lineup. You've got Cole Jurek, Thomas Edmonds, Andrew Roy out there. There's not the same continuity, and they're going to have to work through that. And this is a really big test tonight against the Empire.
Now, there's been a change on the New York Empire O-line, although not a big one, because they've replaced one Chartok for another. Elliott is unavailable tonight, so Jack Williams joins Solomon Rushmeyer-Bailey in the offensive backfield, and Oliver Chartok, Elliott's younger but larger brother, takes over in the downfield cutting space, and the Empire are excited about what Oliver has been this year and what he can be tonight. Here's Jeff Babbitt underneath, picked up by Musa Ja. Ryan Oscar, last year's AUDL MVP. Hadn't played poorly at the start of the season by any means, but he's been relatively quiet, overshadowed by other playmakers on his own team, perhaps. First touch for Chartok. Here's Babbitt on the under. John Lithio's coming next. Joe Merrill's on him. Opening O-point for the New York Empire on the road in Washington, D.C. New York, the reigning champs, riding a 17-game winning streak into tonight. The last time they lost was in Washington, D.C. to the Carolina Flyers in the 2021 championship. And Rafis gets a piece of it. He also got a piece of Rushmeyer-Bailey's back, but no call. Merrill going deep. Williams chasing. Merrill rips it down. Oh, Jack was closing fast, but the Joe Merrill Roofing Company did not account for Jeff Babbitt, but a timeout before the throw. And Daryl Stanley is the early MVP from the Breeze sideline. Wow.
Jeff Babbitt cannot believe it. He's just got an unbelievable layout block. What a crazy sequence to start this game. Both opening O-points filled with highlights, crazy miscues. Wow. Take a look at Rowan there. Out on that defensive line to start this year for DC and giving them some pop defensively and on the turn. Wow, Evan, that's just a crazy sequence right there.
Weren't we chatting earlier today about, as we see Rafis?
Well, and you know, there was contact there. Rafis got the disc first. I think that's why the ref didn't blow the whistle. Definitely could have been a foul call there.
We were chatting in the car on the way here about the best plays in league history that ended up not counting because of a call, whether it's a pick or a travel or a timeout. Justin Burnett had a grab for Atlanta last night. Sky and Evan Switek in the hustles went over the Soul that got called back, and it's one of the plays of the week, even though it didn't count. You could say the same thing for that Babbitt layup block. Now DC on offense, trying to strike first to take a 2-0 lead. Monroe overthrows Jurek in the end zone.
Strange turnover there. Tried to kind of go with the high backhand. Never really had it lined up.
Charlie Hoppus screaming timeout from the Empire sideline. And the drama and plot thickens here in our nation's capital.
Well, almost 4 minutes gone, and it's 1-0. And, you know, both teams just looking a little bit overeager right now, Evan.
We'll take the timeout, too. It's early, but the intensity is high. Well, it's been something of a sloppy start tonight, but nothing was sloppier in AUDL history than the second half of this 2018 playoff game between New York and DC. By and large, played in a monsoon. There were no goals scored in the entire fourth quarter. No goals scored in the entire fourth quarter, but look, everything sort of changed for the New York Empire this night. They beat Toronto the next week. They're 46-4 in their last 50 games since that one, as we're back to live action. Oscar looking for Lithio. Merrill mistimed the jump, and Lithio has the easy catch and assist to Oliver Chartok. And after all that, it's 1-1.
1-1. Crazy start, but New York coming out of that timeout, and you know, just to go back to that monsoon game really quick. Not only did they get that win in the crazy conditions, but then they step up, they beat Toronto the next time, they finally get the big win against Toronto, and that started them into this path of winning a couple of AUDL championships and being now, you know, the league favorite for about 3 years in a row.
And you think a week before that monsoon game, they also played here at Catholic University against the Breeze and got demolished by 10. And it felt like they were in danger of not making the playoffs at that time. They recovered to beat Philly the next day. They're 47-4 in their last 51 games, 46-4 since that monsoon game, which took place the same day as the World Ultimate Club Championship final in Cincinnati, Ohio, early that morning, indoors. Charlie, you and I were both there for that one, too. Privileged to be at some of the sport's most crazy moments through the years. Here's Jeff Wodach underneath. Ben Ort gets his first touch as a member of the Breeze. He's picked up by Jeff Holm, one of the Empire rookies. Holm played a few games a handful of years back for Chicago. One thing we've been discussing with DC is that they haven't looked to huck very much this year, and they haven't been very successful when they've tried to do it. They think Ben Ort can add that explosive throwing to their O-line as we see a pick called. But, you know, it's Ort's first game, and I'm asking him before the game, how do you calibrate your level of aggressiveness? He says, look, I know this is going to be a game against New York without that many turnovers. You really got to take care of possession.
Well, that's been a problem for the Breeze. They're averaging 2 more huck turnovers per game so far this year than they did a year ago. They are second to last in the league in completed hucks per game.
And dead last in percentage. And look, this is a team that, you know, has prided itself on small ball. But Johnny Malks has 1 huck in 2 games. That's complete. He's had several 5, 4, 6 huck games in the past. Here's Jeremy Knopf. Continues for Cole Jurek. Malks is on the sidelines for this second Breeze O-point of the game. Boxley doubled. And falling to the ground, he completes it. There's no whistle, and DC converts.
Pretty heads-up play to get rid of the disc there when he could have potentially been called for a stall because he didn't get the whistle for the foul, so he continues play, and they get into the end zone.
Knopf to Jurek to finish the point.
the Breeze have not turned it over in the red zone this season. That's been one of their best points as a team. And look, the point we just watched, this is classic DC Breeze from 2022. It's not what we've necessarily seen that much this year, but they were very patient. And again, working through Boxley, that is a foul. I can't believe no whistle. And he says, well, all right, I guess I'll just throw it from here and put it in.
You can see Boxley's confidence has gone up a level. I mean, he's always had the tools. They've put a little bit more trust and responsibility in him in terms of giving him that space, which he appreciates because he feels he's ready for it.
Yeah, 4.5 scores a game and a block on average so far, and I feel like that undersells how good he's been.
Lithio over to Babbitt. Here's Oliver Chartok. Lithio's going deep. Osgar's coming under. Squeeze it through. Osgar shooting it. Lithio stride for stride with his defender, David Bloodgood, and it's incomplete. Through some contact, the official called a foul, and Bloodgood called one as well.
Yeah, that was going to be an integrity call if there was no whistle, but the refs get that one right. That's a pretty fun battle, Lithio, Bloodgood. And I mean, this is just great coverage from Bloodgood. He's just a little bit behind at the last moment and has to foul Lithio in order to make the play.
And how quietly excellent has John Lithio been for this New York Empire team? I mean, you think of him as a Phil Cutter, but that's a difficult and impressive throw to just finish the point with authority. 2-all.
Yeah, John Lithio always seems to be where the team needs him. You know, he is not always the primary option, but creates a lot of great space for his teammates. And when he does have to go get the disc, he's happy to do it.
2 goals for Oliver Chartok, 24 years old. His brother Elliot, 29 years old. And they look very similar. It just looks like Oliver has spent a little bit more time in the gym.
Well, he's actually played a decent amount of offense already this season.
Which isn't to say Elliot, if he's watching, isn't in great shape too. Malks is back out there for DC's third 0 point. Had plenty of twists and turns, and yet we've had 4 offensive holds, technically. Each team has missed a break chance or 2. Nice catch by Roy, challenged by Brownlee. Boxley to the far sideline. Quickly back to Malks, and he shot it deep, but Knopp stopped cutting. And who else but Ben Katz times the block perfectly for New York.
Ben Katz has a nose for the disc. And we've seen this hucking game from DC, just not that sharp this season.
Yacht handles the floater from Brownlee. Antoine Davis wide open. And he was very close to the sideline. And he set a pivot foot out of bounds after landing inbound. So I think that'll technically be a travel, which will force him to retreat 10 yards and slow the momentum a bit. It'll stay New York's disc. Hammer back for Katz. And here's Davis. Yacht. Became more of a blade than he wanted.
It's a bad decision for Ben Yacht. That's just not an open look.
And yet a foul was called on Jurek on the mark. And I think it's coming back to Yacht. And Yacht's going to overturn it, saying integrity rule. It's going to be DC's disc. How about that?
Not so often seen that the offensive player overturns the call, but it's great integrity from Yacht, and I think that's the right outcome.
Well, fair to say DC's offense hasn't solved all of its problems yet, Charlie. They're still searching for that continuity that you and Darryl Stanley were talking about.
Well, and I wonder how long it's going to be until we see Rowan McDonald get back out there for an 0 point. He has been the fixer for their problems so far this year.
He's also been so important to the D-line and helping them get so many breaks.
Yeah, DC moving up into the top 5 in the league in break percentage this year.
Knopf from Monroe with Yacht on the mark. Oh, Brownlee almost had the block of the reset. Disc in the hands of Johnny Malks. Quick little give and go along with Boxley, who's still wide open. Whose idea was it to not guard Christian Boxley?
It's been interesting. They've been giving him a lot of space to operate the entire game.
And Malks finishes the point with the score. Something to keep an eye on. Are they trying to give him the disc under and force him to be a thrower?
We've seen Yacht backing him all game, but it hasn't really worked out. He's been the best player for this DC team. They're up 3-2 here in the first.
It has been an interesting and somewhat bizarre opening quarter. If you're just joining us, it kind of feels like DC is behind in the game, and yet they haven't been broken, and they have a 1-goal lead as New York receives this pull. 5 straight holds despite a slew of break chances and a couple integrity rules mixed in. Here's Charles Weinberg, his second year on the Empire, and an errant reset. Babbitt, insanity to make that catch.
That had no business being a completion. It should have been blocked, and then it should have been a turnover under the turf. What a play from Babbitt.
How does he do it? Can a 5-yard loss on a reset make the top 10, Charlie? We're going to find out. That was an outrageous grab. Maintaining possession for the Empire, and if he doesn't make that catch, DC's virtually in the red zone. Babbitt again floats it too far. Osgar could not come up with a catch.
And this is where the Breeze have been so good. When their D-line has gotten the disc, they've been one of the best in the league at turning it into points. Big hammer.
Reese Bergeron sending it into a crowd that includes Jeff Babbitt. Not a good idea.
Yeah, I think time running down there. Want to just get a good, clean shot. You had 2 offensive players down there, but one Babbitt usually going to come away the victor.
The most brilliant buzzer beater performer in the AUDL for years has been Jeffrey Babbitt. And he continues to be a dominant threat. Low scoring first quarter, and the Breeze take a 3-2 lead into the second in our AUDL game of the week. Fascinating first quarter here in our nation's capital. DC leads New York 3-2, and we are so pleased to be joined by a very special guest in the booth, Bill Nye, the ultimate guy.
Oh, yeah.
Back for another AUDL game. This is your second straight week here in DC
Yes,
following the
sir.
Breeze.
Yes, indeed it is. Yes, it's a fantastic game. There's a little more defense than you might expect. But what wins games?
Defense.
That's exactly right, my friends. So there's been, it's a little wet out. Some players apparently like that. They like the grip on the disc.
We're going to have you stay with us and give us your analysis.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of Jeff
sure
Babbitt?
This guy is faster than he looks. I would say to everybody on the Breeze, just don't underestimate the speed of Empire. They're so fast, all of them.
Yeah, these two
And
teams.
here he's hucking it full-length sidearm. Yeah. Disc up. Everybody's wandering around.
Weinberg
And there it
asking
is.
for a call, and he's not going to get one.
No, I agree. I think that was incidental contact. That, if anything, he got turned around. The disc fooled him.
As someone who played Ultimate starting in what year?
1973.
What is it like 50 years later to
It's
see
the same,
this?
only faster. It's so fast. It's so beautifully fast. You know, we used to say, I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer. I was in engineering school.
Oh,
I think
incredible
he's out,
catch,
yeah.
but Rafus ruled out of
He's
bounds.
out of bounds, yeah.
You could be an official with your eyes right there. That was well done.
Well, sure I could. But you're always pointing your toes on the way down when you're laying it out. And it's so much faster. You know, when we started playing, it was the stall count was 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And if there was nobody marking you, you just do it all day. And double teaming was not permitted, just like in college still. But if you ever were to accidentally double team or get within a few meters of the guy, you're leaving somebody open. So the game's the same in that way. Is that a pick?
It was a foul downfield. We're chatting with Bill Nye. Bill, you joined us at halftime of the 2019 championship game.
Yes.
At that time, New York had not been AUDL champions yet. Now they are the standard in this league.
They are the standard. Everybody here can throw and catch and run and run. And you guys were saying earlier about there was just more defense than you expected, more incomplete passes than you expected. And I think it's because both teams are a little wound up. Everybody's a little nervous, and they're pushing it because this. If you were, as the DC Breeze, if you were to beat the mythic Empire, you'd be a big deal. So they're just working a little extra hard, and Empire's it's on their mind as well. Although that last Empire goal was pretty, I won't say phone it in, but routine. Yeah.
There's not a whole lot routine in what these two teams do.
It's just so smooth and so fast.
Oscar looking for Lithio.
He's going, but see, this is where the height, there's nothing you can do. Even if the DC defender had been downfield with him, you know, it's the same. It's like so many sports. It's the matchups. If you're overmatched, then there you go. But that's just a tie game and all this excitement.
Both teams 0 for 2 on break chances in the first quarter. And, I mean, look, New York is not striking quickly. That was nearly a 3-minute 0 point to start the second quarter.
Breeze defense has been excellent. And, you know, both teams have 5 turnovers, but still no breaks in the game. And it just feels like it always comes down to 1 or 2 plays in these Breeze Empire games.
And see, that's the thing. When Breeze called a timeout and didn't score. They had a set piece and didn't score. That's just the kind of thing. That's just the kind of thing you're talking about.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And so you can't let that bug you. You got to bear down. Let it go.
That's
outstanding pull, man.
Right in the back of the end zone. Yeah. And Andrew Roy's got a lot of work to do.
Well, they're bringing it out.
Here's Thomas Edmonds.
Give the hammer, man. It's a good thing I'm here to help these guys, you know.
You're like the inner monologue of what's going on in the minds of the Breeze handlers.
Well, I was a handler. That's all I did. You know, when I went to.
Well, you showed me a picture of you laying out earlier.
Oh
today,
yeah, well,
so you look like a cutter to me.
Well, I cut it now and then when you gotta get down there.
Which was your favorite throw? The hammer?
Well, I love the hammer because even if it's a tall guy defending you. Even if it's Don Ibsen, an ancient reference, I could get it over his head like goalposts, like through the wickets going upright. But still, it's in the air a long time. The hammer is a risky throw. Thank you, Uncle Bill. Yep.
Well, DC is really trying to value the disc. You can see that in the style that they've built. Mixing in new pieces into the offense this year. Those pieces, Andrew Roy, Thomas Edmonds, Cole Jurek, Ben Ort. Guys that are incredibly talented.
Back to the disc. I think we're a little tired. Guys should have been back to the disc on that throw.
Sliding grab from Malks. Charlie, what are you seeing from New York?
There's the hammer.
John Randolph, did he get a piece cleanly? Yes.
And so that's not to be a told you so, but the hammer is a fabulous throw, but it was in the air that extra moment, and the guy was able to swing it, knock it away.
Randolph's going to take that timeout. Take the opportunity to try to get that offense out on the field and see if they can get the first break of this game.
It'll be the final timeout of the half of the Empire. We'll take a very quick timeout. Bill Nye's going to stick around and chat more with us. 3-3, New York and DC. John Randolph has made so many plays like this throughout his college, club, and professional career, truly developing into one of the great young players in the game. Hard to believe he's just 24 years old.
24 is, you know, it's when you can run.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got a few years until he's in his prime, you would think.
Yeah, well.
Guy like Jack Williams, look at him, 28 years old right now. It's kind of right in the wheelhouse. New York's offense back on the field. Empire 0 for 2 on break so far today. Evan Lepler, Charlie Eisenhood, and special guest Bill Nye joining us.
They're calling that a pick or a push down. Yeah, giving him penalizing New York 10 yards. Yeah.
I got a question for you, Bill.
Yes, sir.
How often in the year 2023 do you get recognized? Every day?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean,
because kids of
in
our
the
generation
US, yeah.
grew up watching you.
Oh, see, he got turned around. Yeah.
Beautiful throw,
Yeah, that's it.
and Williams is just shy of the goal line.
Because he left, he was airborne. Yeah.
Loading it for
this.
Babbitt, and he's not in either.
Same deal, double team backing him up. Boy, that was, you know, we all want to milk it into the end zone. And sometimes you just can't. Here it is. But you were saying earlier about the DC defense is very good, but still, it's New York.
The game's first break. It belongs to the Empire, and more specifically, 29-year-old Jeff Babbitt.
Well, that's a big point for them to drive it all the way down the field. We'll just see there.
Yeah, well, the break happened when I was talking about the hammer throw, and it stayed in the air too long, got batted away, and then New York had enough guys on the field that could really turn it around. And they had to back up on the end zone, but they did. Patience.
Well, this New York offensive line hasn't been perfect tonight, but they've been able to get the disc back when they've turned it over, and perfect time to come out and get a clean possession for the game's first break.
Yeah, it was textbook.
Empire leading the AUDL in break percentage, and yet they still feel like they should be more effective, and they are now 1 for 3 on break chances. DC is 0 for 3 and certainly had opportunities.
Boy, that's going to be a stall. There you go.
Almost was. A Scuba saved him.
Yep.
Have you ever had any conversation with Marquez Brownlee, who's become a star in his own right?
No. You guys, I'm moving around.
He's almost as recognizable as you are out there in the world.
Careful what you wish for.
I can imagine.
So yeah, I get recognized continually. Yeah. And I was
and they're you get recognized by people in their 30s and 40s that watch you as a kid.
But there's a third generation. The guy I pulled the disc out to start the game, Lenore, he's watching the show.
Is he really?
The third generation of people are watching the Science Guy show. It's amazing. And if you guys we're in Washington, D.C., watching the Breeze work it back and forth. Now they're just about at midfield. He's going for the huck.
Monroe.
Okay, I will say
again. Boxley.
I will say again.
Yes,
Whoa.
sir.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's just hard to beat New York on the huck, but there was a matchup. He was overmatched and brought it down.
Christian Boxley with a step is a dangerous man.
Yeah.
And that back shoulder fade, it's all Boxley.
Yeah.
This is a throw I'd like to see Tyler Monroe take more often for the Breeze.
Yeah, I think they're going to start to find that rhythm as these players get used to what everybody's trying to do. Obviously, those two have played together plenty, but...
So I've said for years, lucky you all, it's the second throw. It's the throw to the assist.
The hockey assist.
That's really important.
Before the season, DC said internally that the only stat they cared about this year was hockey assist. That was the most prestigious stat for the whole Breeze team this year.
That's pretty good. Well, that was the style of play that I embraced, but it's hard. You know, when we started playing in Seattle, these decades ago, back in the 1900s, if you will.
Offside was called here, so New York's going to
Yeah, that surprised
midfield.
me, but I guess that's what it was. Somebody started across the line before the pole. And that's, they're walking up, thinking thoughts.
Well, we're tied at 4 with 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. Not the first quarter. This is the second quarter.
I know, and it's still only 4-4. That may change in the next few moments, but still, It's a surprisingly low-scoring game because everybody's been working so hard on defense.
Excellent pressure from the Breeze there. Almost got the turn on the reset.
Charlie, I don't know if you remember, these two teams played an 8-7 game once in miserable rainy conditions, I think on Coney Island.
Yeah, I might have been there.
Out of bounds, Lithio. Could not keep the feet in, and DC has its 4th break chance.
He was on his way out before it came down, yeah. All right.
We're tied, but DC has not broken the empire yet in the game.
So many great defenders on this Empire O-line.
Yeah, Jack Williams, Jeff Babbitt in particular, 2 of the best defenders in the sport, and David Bloodgood is going to take time out.
There we go, with 3 minutes to go.
Bill, we will let you go and enjoy the rest of the game. Thanks so much for joining us.
It is I who must thank you guys.
It is a pleasure.
I really appreciate it. I just love the game. It's the only team sport where the offense cannot score unassisted. The disc flies, it does just fall. It's all there, people.
We are back, just over 3 minutes to play in the first half. DC looking for its first break and looking to retake the lead. And how cool is it to get to hang out with Bill Nye here in Washington, D.C. with this matchup of Titans, the top-ranked New York Empire, number 2 DC Breeze.
And this is a big point in this game right here. Break chance for DC to get back in front. Time winding down here in the first half.
They're trying to score toward the end zone with the spectacular sky here in our nation's capital right now.
There's just nothing is easy right now for either team.
Monroe floats it. Malks has it. Breeze back in front.
Huge break for the Breeze. They get back in front. And look, they've been willing to take the shots when they're there. And I think that's been part of the thing that's made them a little more successful with this O-line this year. When they have those shots, they have to be willing to attack. And Tyler Monroe has been really the best tonight. You know, going up the line here with the blade, it's easy to look that one off. But Malks had steps, and he finds him.
Beautiful night in our nation's capital. Johnny Malks catching the score. 9 points played in the game. 6 of those 9 points have lasted over 2 minutes.
And that just goes to show you how good these defenses are.
And also how cautious both offenses are trying to be, and yet they're still not anywhere close to perfect. Very close there defensively. McCutcheon and Williams. Weinberg bluffs a big backhand. Instead it's Chartok under. McDonald on the mark. Chartok wants it deep. Oscar chased by Merriman. Perfect throw. Oliver Chartok, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh, and Oscar with some extracurriculars, a little talk. And a little bump going through, and still talking to each other, Tom and Oscar. I mean, what a throw here from Chartok. I mean, you cannot put this in a better spot. 2 great defenders giving chase and a big spike right in front of Tom. Gorgeous backhand from Chartok. Oscar doesn't really have to make a big play. He can just go up and get it. And I don't know what happened on the field between him and Tom there, but we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Sure will. Certainly some unfinished business, perhaps. Oliver Chartok filling in on the O-line with Elliot Chartok, his older brother, unavailable tonight. Oliver, despite his size and stature and role on this team in the past, has been a handler throughout much of his ultimate career. So New York was very confident in his ability to distribute downfield. And that was a beautiful touch to Osgar. It's funny how Ryan Oscar, you think of him last year, I mean, he finished the 2022 season 21 for 22 in hucks. So, like, every choice he made, now sometimes Ben Yot or Jeff Babbitt saved him on a particular play, and they did call an unsportsmanlike, forcing New York to pull from the old starting line from the end zone.
I think it's one of the great offensive seasons we've ever seen in the AUDL.
Yeah. Production, efficiency.
He hasn't been quite at that level so far this year, but still averaging 3.5 goals, 3 assists a game.
And you think about how he kind of changed himself in the playoffs last year, and DC kind of took him out of his game in the divisional final. Aaron throw, Yacht read it well, comes up the pick. Empire are out of timeouts, final minute of this first half. Matt Stevens, number 2 in AUDL history in games played. Ben Yot shooting it. Matt Labar is inbounds to put the Empire back in front.
Ben Yot coming up with the block and then a beautiful assist at the back of the end zone. And got to give Matt Stevens credit for going over the top with the hammer and just throwing the entire defense out of position by getting it to the break side. I mean, look, literally no one else in our frame, no defenders anywhere. Matt Labar all alone at the back, and well-weighted huck from Yacht. And just the margins are very narrow with these defensive lines. If you make a slight mistake with your angle of release or the weight on your throw, it's more often than not going to end up being a turnover.
And Jeremy Knopf, who went 183 of 184 for the Breeze last year and was 51 for 51 this year before that errant upline throw that Yacht intercepted. Important point here, Charlie. DC will start the third quarter on offense. Can they get the equalizer here before halftime? Monroe wants it all. Breton Tan, Christian Boxley battling, back of the end zone. Boxley out of bounds.
That was a heat check throw from Tyler Monroe. He had a couple of great shots and took that one with Boxley not really in great position.
They're going to reset the clock here because the disc goes out of bounds. Red line is the line you're looking at. Beg your pardon, it's the black line. He's passed them all. There are a lot of lines on this field.
Yeah, you can see in the turf where his toe landed. Easy call there for the referee.
And with the disc going out of bounds, that stops the clock. So they're adding some time back to it. I think it's going to be 16 seconds. And the clock will start on the release of the throw.
That's a good amount of time. There's enough time here for New York to run some real offense before they take a shot.
And the Empire have Jeff Babbitt on the field right now for this end of quarter point. Randolph with the disc. Here's Katz. Brown lead near midfield. He'll shoot it with the backhand. It's going to be short of the end zone. Yacht has time, 5 seconds. Yacht slings it across, and Antoine Davis is wide open.
What a throw from Ben Yacht with time winding down here in the first half. All zeros, and New York gets a crushing score at the last to go up by 2 into the halftime break. And that throw from Ben Yacht, such a high degree of difficulty. He had to drop down and blast that inside out to keep that from overturning.
Just elite recognition of time and situation.
Knowing exactly where he is in terms of the clock. He doesn't have it at the front cone, so he just drops that shoulder and just lasers it across. Has a chance to get blocked if a DC defender has eyes on the disc, but nobody does. And it gets straight through to Davis.
A cackling Antoine Davis catching the score. They could not connect on the opening point. That would have been a break, but it's a break to take it to half as New York scores the final 3 goals in the half and leads 7-5. They win that second quarter 5-2.
Brilliant end of quarter execution from New York, and that is something that has always set this team apart They do it again. 7-5 New York out in front.
And Anthony Nunez, the co-head coach of the Empire, joins us. Anthony, your thoughts on a bizarre, low-scoring, but very competitive and feisty first half. What'd you see?
I mean, these are like two prize fighters fighting it out, right? Like, they're just duking it out. You know, it's both offenses are getting pressured pretty hard by both defenses, and it's, you know, it's definitely a fight for sure.
Anthony, how much do you work on those end-of-quarter situations, and how much is it just Yacht's instincts that the AUDL pressure-pack moments are off the charts?
I mean, we practice them a little bit, but we really just, like, kind of let the guys look at the field around and try to find the space, and we know that we have more time on the clock than the clock actually says, so, you know, it's just, it's more natural, but we do practice it some in the, like, towards the end of the season usually.
All right, Anthony, appreciate the time. We'll let you get with your team. Best of luck in the second half.
Thank you.
Anthony Nunez and Charlie Hoppus took over the Empire before the 2021 season. They are 29-3 as the co-head coaches of the Empire. That includes 17 straight wins. They lead 7-5 at the half tonight here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Welcome back to D.C., the 30th all-time meeting between the New York Empire and the D.C. Breeze. These two teams joined the league in 2013. Empire have won 17 of the last 29 meetings. There have been a dozen one-goal games in this series, and who knows, we could be having another one brewing tonight. Evan Lepler with Charlie Eisenhood. There are always things that we don't expect, that we don't see coming. I think 12 is under the over-under for the first half.
I think that's right, and I think we heard it from Anthony Nunez in the interview there just before we went to break. What it comes down to is that these defenses are two of the best in the league, and they're putting a lot of pressure on two offensive units that are still getting into this season. You know, we're only in week 3 here, so I think that's why you're seeing a lot of kind of rickety offense, some of the turnovers, and I think really the difference right now, New York has done better in the special situations when they've had to change over the lines, when we've seen a timeout and the offense comes in for the defense. DC's turned it over in those spots. We see at the end of the second quarter there, New York just a little bit better, and that's why they've got a 2-goal lead.
What can the Breeze do to get more comfortable? And is the only answer Rowan?
Well, I was looking at the stats from last week, and Rowan was, when he was on the field for their O-line, they were 6 for 8 on holds, and when he wasn't, they were 3 for 10. So I certainly think Rowan is a piece there, but they want to let these guys find the rhythm, and I feel like we've seen them look okay. It's been a little bit of decision-making issues as we take a look at these first half stats. You know, it's not like there's that much separating them right now. DC's missed on Hucks. We talked about that earlier. But it's really both teams have had good moments, have had bad moments, and this game would feel very different if the Breeze had scored down in that end zone when Monroe shot it to Boxley instead of it going the other way for the Yacht to Davis break.
Yeah, no question about it. McDonald played 1 0 point in the first half. You know, it's 5 completions, 1 turnover. You know, it's a low-scoring defensive struggle right now. And as you said astutely, those special situations, the end of quarters, and Ben Yacht, I mean, he gets overshadowed. It's crazy that the 2-time MVP, who's on the verge of doing some things statistically that, quite frankly, put him in a league of his own. Like, you think about who's the best player in AUDL history, the answer is probably Ben Yacht, and I'm not sure we talk about that enough.
Well, and you think about Ben Yacht, MVP of the league, superstar on the offensive line. The Empire take him off the offense, put him on the D-line. And it really works out. And, it's moments like this when he can give you offense after a turnover that make him so valuable in that spot. And I think DC, honestly, taking a little bit of a cue from that in trying to move Rowan over to the D-line this year. So we'll see if it works out. Ultimately, when we got to the playoffs last year, and it was DC New York in the closest game New York played in the playoffs, what did we see? We saw Yacht playing offense. I think DC will have Rowan playing offense when we get to the playoffs in 2023.
But will he play in the third and fourth quarters tonight? That's the question. Ben Yacht with 2 first-half assists, the last 2 points for the Empire. Has 294 career assists. He gets 6 more. He'll be the first player in the history of the league with at least 300 goals and at least 300 assists. He is truly entering a league of his own. Empire, led by Yacht, up 7-5 at the half. We'll be back. We are back in D.C. with the Empire leading 7-5. Second half about to start. First, we get to chat with Daryl Stanley, the 6th-year head coach of the Breeze. Daryl, thanks for a couple of seconds. Your quick thoughts on the first half. What did you see, and what do you need to see in the second?
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm really appreciative of the fact we're getting a lot of turns, and we're doing a really good job of just, like, I think being very resilient, moving the ball pretty well, and in my mind, like, we're taking advantage of the poaching that they're doing a lot. We'll see what they do to change that, but the situational stuff, I think, is where we're just a little bit disappointed. A couple of shots at the end of the quarter, a couple of plays like that, where we're just like an inch away, and New York just punishes us. So we got to get better at that.
You notice that Christian Boxley is getting a lot of space, and they're pushing him under a lot. Are you trying to take advantage of that? I noticed he also took a couple points off there in the second quarter. Any thoughts on what they're doing against him defensively?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Britton Tan on him, but I've seen a lot of switching downfield. You know, as long as we're moving like that, I think that's going to mean that there's going to be matchups that are going to be problematic for New York, right? So I love how he's moving, and yeah, I definitely want him to continue to attack. I did definitely talk to him about that to encourage him to do that a little bit more. So, you know, let's see how he does in the second half, but I was really encouraged with him going deep on that one shot that Tyler threw to him. I mean, that shows you that he's already kind of seeing the space and seeing the matchups.
Great stuff, Daryl. Appreciate the time. Best of luck in the second half.
All right, thank you.
Daryl Stanley has said this will be his final year at the helm of the DC Breeze. If they come back to win tonight, it'll be the Breeze's 50th win since he became head coach at the start of the 2017 season. Daryl is 49, 23-1 since the start of 2017, which is a darn good record, no matter how you shake it, but they've had to deal with their evil empire to the north.
Yeah, it's been almost 2 years since New York lost a game. Dropped the last time here in D.C. in July 2021. They lose 2017. It kind of had a short roster that week, so it felt like it didn't really count. But you know, they've been a lot of close games against New York, but never been able to get the win in the big spot.
Yeah, Empire have won 8 of the last 9 in the series, but you look before that, Breeze won 9 of the previous 10 before that. And the DC offense turned the tide here in this second half. Under the lights at Carlini Field, a tight space throw. Edmonds almost triple team for a second. New York recovers defensively. Britton Tan, not a name we've talked a whole lot about tonight, but under the radar addition for the New York Empire. I mean, as a teenager, he was a dominant defender for the Toronto Rush at championship weekend back in 2017. Haven't seen him in the league since 2018. All of a sudden he shows up in New York, and even the coaching staff, Charlie Hoppus, was telling us like he didn't appreciate just how good he was, but he's not good enough there to stop Tyler Monroe. And the Breeze are back within 1 to start the third.
That's a great way to come out of half and just get a nice, clean, no-nonsense hold. And Monroe has continuing to make his impact on this game. He's been throwing the goals, but here just exploding to that front cone and leaving Tan in the dust. Just a nice move. Gets Tan to turn his back. Monroe, yeah. Such a solid player. It feels like if the Breeze are going to make a big run this year, he's going to be a big part of it.
First 0 point for the Empire here in the second half. Ruschmeyer, Bailey, Williams, and Chartok in the backfield. 4 horizontally stacked cutters downfield. Not going to get a chance, but foul called is going to keep the disc with Jack Williams, I believe. It's Babbitt, Lithio, Osgar, and Weinberg, the quartet downfield. Now Chartok's going to join them in a vertical stack. Oh, David Cranston looked like he was the one making the cut.
The coverage is so good that the cutter stopped going and Cranston was all alone to make an easy block.
Tight space grab from McCutcheon on the sideline, and Daryl Stanley will take the timeout.
Wow, interesting. I feel like that's a pretty early timeout call.
It's an early break opportunity.
And you may not get that many of them, so I understand it from that perspective, but you know, we're barely started here in the second half.
While we have a moment, let's bring in a former coach of the Breeze who has also done some AUDL broadcasting. Will Smolinski is joining us from the sidelines. Will, thanks for joining us. Just curious your thoughts on what you saw in the first half, the low-scoring defensive battle, and what adjustments would you be thinking about if you were coaching in this game?
Yeah, so the big thing with New York is they haven't seen coverage this tight all year. And so those windows, as we just kind of saw there with that last turn, is they're not open, and then either, in this case, the cutter stopped, or we've seen some really contested catches, especially in the first half. We saw so many, like, body-on-body Ds. And, you know, that's East Coast, that's the Eastern Division defensive style there. Very physical, very close, person to person. And so the adjustment in the second half here, offenses are going to need to go a little more vertical, or at least threaten a little more vertical, so that they can open up some of those undercuts and hopefully open up some of those under windows. If I were New York, the thing I'd really be thinking about is how do we get those 20 or 30-yard in-cut gainers? We really haven't seen them been able to do that and then turn up and throw the next throw.
All right, great stuff. Will Smolinski, keep an eye out for us down on the sideline. We may come to you in the fourth for an update from what you're seeing. There was a strange start to that post-timeout play. Looked like New York wasn't in position, and the officials hadn't signaled readiness when Andrew Roy threw it, as we see the huck go up. And it's adjusted too well, but dropped by Jurek off his fingertips near the goal line.
Jurek tried to high point it, and I'm not quite sure why. It felt like he could have just taken a couple steps back and made the catch without a defender getting there first.
Another one of these special team situations that the Breeze have failed to convert. Nice find by Brownlee. The Cats. Well, he had Davis going deep, but Cats with a holster.
And the trust here from the Empire coaching staff to leave this line on the field, not use their first time out.
I mean, look at this line. Marquez Brownlee, the leaping snag. That's a hold, but it feels like a back-breaking score if you're the Breeze.
I mean, you just burn a timeout and you lose it. Now you got to play the rest of this half with only one chance to swap the lines. And honestly, I think we've seen equally good offense, if not better, from the DCD line. So an interesting decision there from Daryl Stanley. And there's the initial block from Cranston. Just great coverage from Cranston downfield. And then Jurek, feeling a little pressure there, tries to go up early, can't make the grab, and then Brownlee just way too much space to leave him, and he goes up and brings it down. It's his first goal of the game.
You knew Marquez's AI image would look good.
He didn't make it himself, though. You might think he did, though.
Marquez Brownlee started a YouTube channel as a 14-year-old in 2008. Now has nearly 17 million subscribers. It's been viewed almost 3.5 billion times as of last night when I checked.
It'll be 4 billion after the weekend.
Especially with the boost that we gave him here. Marquez, a guy, he's really developed as a player. I mean, you think about it, he started as a member of the New Jersey Hammerheads and then spent a few years with the Philly Phoenix, joined New York kind of as a mid-tier, bottom of the roster guy, and has developed into a starting handler defender who, you know, they rely upon with his pulls and his effectiveness after a turn. Really valued member of this team. Rowan McDonald back on O. Dangerous throw, handled by Wodach. Nori Toe getting a start tonight. New York playing without both Elliot Chartok and Mike and Ryan Drost, who are both unavailable, the two all-time AVDL leaders in blocks. New York's defense is still pretty good without those guys, even though they're two of the legends of the league. And there's the DC score. Tyler Monroe running across, catching the goal from Boxley. About 4.5 minutes gone in the second half. Mentioned there was a New York DC game one time that ended 8-7. It was was another game that had goals in the fourth quarter. That will not be the case tonight. More action coming up. So Rowan McDonald helped engineer the offense down the field. Now he will launch the pull for the DC D-line. Alongside Bloodgood, Merrill, Cranston, Ja, Bergeron, and Rafus.
Side stack look from New York, interesting. We have not seen them really change things up like this offensively that often.
You had to know that both of these coaching staffs would have some wrinkles for the game plan tonight, stuff they didn't show the first 2 weeks of the season.
They're trying to create a little more space in the middle of the field by running that side stack, get players into isolation, and not just feel like they have to constantly win the foot races out of the stack. But good job by the DC defense to slow it down and still forcing lots of tight window throws.
Hucking for Weinberg. He's got it. Shy of the end zone. Is that another shot from Chartok there?
I believe it was.
Weinberg shakes free of McDonald. Finishes the score that he started. And New York doubles its lead.
Well, New York scores, but that was not an easy point for the Empire. It has been tough sledding out there, even in the red zone, having to work multiple cuts before they finally get Weinberg open up the line.
Third assist of the night for Ryan Osgar. Empire are now 5 of 6 on their hucks tonight. DC is a team just 2 for 6. Ethan Fortin to launch the pull. It's a majestic floating backhand. Off the bounce, Knopf gets it to Malks. I don't know if this is crazy to ask, Charlie, but Johnny Malks developed such chemistry with Rowan McDonald in the backfield. And it feels like, to me, taking Rowan off the O-line in some ways has changed Johnny and his impact on the O-line significantly too.
Yeah, he hasn't been as effective this season.
Here's a Huck going up, looking for Ort. He's got a long way to go. Oh, well read. That was a difficult catch, and he floats it dangerously. Welcome to the game, Johnny.
Well, he heard what we said up here in the booth, Evan, and he said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go get myself a spectacular goal.
Making an impact.
Wow, Ben Ort, and that's such a good catch. That's so hard when the disc coming straight over your head. You can't really get beat on it. So he has to wait for it to come into his field of view, and it's blowing by him, and he snatches it. So here, take a look. It's coming in, and now it's over his head. He has to change his head, flip it at 180, and makes that catch. And then maybe not quite enough weight on this disc, but he knew Malks was going to get that.
I mean, I think we both thought that throw was going to sail past him, and he wasn't going to be able to get there, but he adjusted to make the play perfectly. And shout out to the folks in the Netherlands who are rooting for the Breeze tonight. Ben Ort's dad, Jeroen, invited a bunch of friends over, even though the game started around 1:30 a.m. local time outside of Amsterdam. Ben Ort with his first assist as a member of the Breeze. He led the Toronto Rush in goals 5 years ago as an 18-year-old teenager. Quite a story. Still just coming into his own.
I think he could be a real impact player for this DC team. We've seen him excel at the international level.
Playing for the mixed team Groot and the Dutch national team.
Quiet whistle there, but there was one. Lithio got bumped as he was faking the forehand.
Steve Kreider, our head official tonight in the white hat. Babbitt. Merriman was close, but not close enough.
There's a smart double team by Merriman, but it's got whistle because he bumped him.
It's one of those plays that looked like Weinberg cocked his arm to throw and didn't expect Merriman to be there. And I'm not sure that's a foul on AJ, but we'll play on. Osgar sees an open man, and that is too easy.
Little salute from Osgar as he rifled that one into the end zone for Chartok.
Oliver Chartok's having a night. He's closing in on 300 total yards. He's now got 4 goals, added an assist as the Empire lead 10-8 late here in the third. Benyat preparing to pull for the Empire. New York winning by 9 and 13 their first 2 weeks. They knew it would be a much tougher test tonight. Empire have not led by more than 2. That's the lead right now as DC has it on 0. Thing about this Empire team is their defensive pressure is just relentless. Cats roaming as he does better than anyone in the league. Forces the reset hammer from Roy to Monroe.
Love the double team. Force them to do something tricky.
Wide open man deep for a moment, but Jurek had no lane to get it there. Roy for Edmonds.
A little crowded on that sideline. That's the right swing pass.
Smooth offense here for DC. Boxley. Threes were perfect in the red zone coming into tonight. They've had a few turnovers over the course of the evening, but that was pretty. And for as much as we talk about Mux as a thrower, he catches a bunch of goals too.
Yeah, and look, that's just a great O point for DC. They've been good here in the second half, and they were hitting the gainers underneath. When they got into congested areas, instead of trying to jam it up the line, which has caused them problems the last couple weeks, they swing it around, they find the space, and they move it and they get an easy score. Well done. And you're right, Malk's operating downfield a little bit more than we're used to seeing him. So often it was him and Rowan going every other for long stretches of points. But it's more sustainable to get him in and out of the backfield.
I think part of that is Andrew Roy's proficiency in the backfield.
Absolutely.
You know,
he can just
allowing Johnny to use some of his other powers.
Exactly. Roy's happy to distribute back there.
Malks is currently leading this game in yards, 331. Although Jack Williams was right on his tail with 330 before this point started. Malks has 1 turnover, Jack has none. Rushmeyer Bailey, thought about it. Solomon Rushmeyer Bailey, another guy who's just been so ever steady in the backfield for New York. Osgar for Weinberg. Babbitt's bolting across, and in like a bolt of lightning, Jeff Babbitt strikes.
He is deceptively quick. He's so big and powerful that when he gets that first step, if you're not ready to be running with him at that moment, he is going to beat you. And this is a long cut that he makes all the way from the middle of the field to the cone and just easily scores. It's surprising because you don't expect him to have that kind of quick footwork that would beat you one-on-one, but he does it over and over again to the front cone.
Yeah, virtually impossible to stop when he's got the angle there.
Second goal of the night for Babbitt, and he like Lithio will just go get the disc when New York needs somebody to get open, and he has a great ability to do that.
Jeff Babbitt, 10th in AUDL history all-time in blocks, 16th in goals all-time entering the night. Malks deep in his own end zone. Ort unable to make the catch. Danger time here for DC. New York has another opportunity for a break. The umpire will receive to start the fourth. And a timeout taken simultaneously by Ethan Fortin and the New York sideline.
Well, this is a spot where you want to just get the offense in there and get a score on the board, go up by 3, take your largest lead of the game here late in the third quarter.
Yep, New York with a chance to take a stranglehold here. We'll take the timeout. 1:26 to play in the third. New York looking to extend the lead to 3. Well, Benyat and the D-line did the job, and now it's the offense's turn. New York has scored after their first 2 timeout calls earlier in the game, and an opportunity to take their largest lead of the night here with the disc in the hands of Solomon Rushmeyer-Bailey. Ryan Osgard gets open on David Cranston, and a reset. Osgard is one of those throwers that just has a knack of putting that extra bit of float when he needs to on a reset to make it so easy for his teammate to make the play. You could frankly say the same thing about Jack Williams and many of these New York players. Babbitt is there, and New York is up 3.
New York just runs dominator there for about 5 passes, and then when everybody gets lulled to sleep in the stack, Babbitt explodes again to the cone. Easy score. New York takes a 3-goal lead. That's just brutal for DC. Floated pass from Knopf. Ort has no chance there. And then it's just the handlers working together. How do you stop these guys one-on-one in this much space? You can't. And then see you later. Babbitt once again. And the catch radius he has, that pass goes over most people's head.
Outrageous athleticism. I mean, the best play he's made tonight was on a negative 5-yard reset. That incredible layout snag.
I don't know. It might have been the layout D that didn't count, Evan.
That could be. That was a great one too. I mean, it's Callahan season. Do you remember his Callahan video? It's one of the greatest ever.
A classic. Everybody should, after this game is over, go check it out on YouTube.
His highlights at the University of Massachusetts when he was a candidate for the Callahan Award, which is like the Heisman Trophy for college ultimate. One of the great college players, one of the great highlight makers of our time. Final 30 seconds of this third quarter.
Very important possession here for DC. They've got to score here before the end of the quarter.
Critical. 20 seconds. Wodach to Boxley.
A lot of time.
Monroe floats it. Boxley shy of the end zone, 11 seconds. And he'll squeeze it in. It's Edmonds, who's been quiet tonight, makes it a 2-goal game with 8 seconds to go.
And a little jawing there with John Randolph, and Boxley didn't like it either. A little too much contact perhaps for their liking. Boxley just running all over the field tonight. He's been fantastic for this Breeze offense, and then jams it in there. And you can see that late bid from Randolph. They did not like that, and it's understandable. That could have been a very dangerous situation. You watch him; he tries to jump that passing lane, and he's way late. Lucky there was not a lot of contact there, but understandable that they took exception. First goal for Thomas Edmonds.
Charlie, is there any part of you that feels DC scored too soon and that they should have been more patient with the disc on the goal line with 10 seconds to try to get the final throw of the quarter?
You know, it's the first thing I thought of. I looked right at the clock when the score went in, and sure, you could imagine that you'd rather burn another 3-4 seconds, but you may not get as good a look as that, and you don't want to go out of the quarter empty-handed. 8 seconds is not much time. If you play this smart, good defense here, you're going to be fine.
Long conversation between head referee Steve Kreider and the New York leadership, Charlie Hoppes, Anthony Nunez, Ryan Holm, the captain. They called a 20-yard unsportsmanlike penalty against New York. Not sure if it was for the bid or the jawing after the bid. But that's going to have DC pulling from midfield.
I think that's a reasonable call by the referees. It's hard to know why it was called, you know, whether it was for conversation or the actual play itself. But if it was for the play, I understand it.
Merriman just trying to throw a blade that lands in bounds. Fortin knocks it down, gets it to Williams. Fortin almost turned it over. That would have been a disaster for New York. Near the sideline, Rushmeyer Bailey's going to run out of time. This one's not going to count. Babbitt moving towards it anyway. Rowan McDonald trying to tackle him. And Babbitt, oh, not one for the highlight reel there. One of the few that he was just messing around. These two teams have some spiciness between them. They also have a great, immense respect for one another and their abilities on the field and for their personalities off the field. We got 12 more minutes tonight in DC with the Empire leading by 2. 3 down, 1 to go on this week 3 New York DC showdown here in our nation's capital. The Breeze will begin the 4th on defense. Trailing by 2. It's 12-10 Empire. Just for a little perspective, Salt Lake and Oakland in the West Division just went to the half. They're tied 13 all at halftime in the high-flying West Division. That looked like a shrip, and yeah, A.J. Merriman gives the disc right back.
Yeah, athletic bid from Merriman, but Babbitt was there first. And teams playing for number 1 in the rankings, perhaps for the home playoff game in the East Final. It's a big game.
These two teams will meet one more time in the regular season in New York. Both teams also have some challenging interdivisional games. DC already beat Carolina on the road. Jack Williams, the former Flyer, shoots it. Oliver Chartok runs out of room. And that's first turnover of the night for Jack. And a break chance for DC. First minute of the 4th.
Well, it's crunch time. You know, Rowan's out there for a reason. He's got to go drive this offense. They're 1 for 5 on break chances tonight. It's eerily similar to their playoff loss a year ago to New York.
We've seen this Empire O-line pivot into some zone defense looks. You know, oftentimes D-lines only really see man-to-man D, and they're forcing the Breeze to think a little bit, and Oscar absolutely cancels A.J. Merriman's backhand. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Merriman unable to get the throw off. McDonald couldn't get the block. And New York is back up by 3. Jeff Babbitt. Who else?
He's been a real problem. I mean, that's his 3rd goal in about 10 minutes. And let's take a look at this whole sequence. First, the big bid from Merriman. He's way late there. And then the overthrow from Williams. And then just a little bit lazy with the pass. Merriman trying to do the little step through, but Oscar was pretty far off the mark and was able to just shift over and really easily block that. And then Babbitt, another score. What a play by Oscar. And that's what this O-line has been doing all season. When they've turned it over, they have been able to get it back. As we listen in there on Ryan.
First block of the season for Ryan.
When Jack hucked it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like they were forced and they were open side deep back to the second. They had a good bracket. Did a couple too much. You look made like.
It's always interesting to eavesdrop on a conversation, a little huddle after a play. Just everybody's talking about what they saw so they can prepare for the next possession. Cool bit of access we've got in this sport. Under 10 minutes to play. And just such a critical turning point there. I mean, DC with a chance to get back within 1, all of a sudden a 3-point uphill climb.
Well, and I was thinking the zone is favorable for DC. Like, I think they're happy to go against the zone. Just an individual piece of brilliance from Ryan Osgar.
If you're DC here, you've got time, but you don't want to take 2-3 minutes. Going long for Boxley, Randolph racing. Boxley, oh, in the air, skying and dishing. DC converts with Ort in the end zone.
Christian Boxley, he has done it all tonight. What a play. 4 assists now for Boxley, a pair of goals. 364 yards of offense and a monster sky.
Some pretty serious footsteps of John Randolph nearby closing in, but Boxley measured it up the whole way.
And a little bit of swagger on the throw into the end zone as well.
First goal for Ort as a member of the DC Breeze. He led the rush with 31 goals back in 2018. As we remind you, AUDL.TV is your home for every single AUDL game. Less than $10 a month as we get into the main crux of the season. You want to be a subscriber. AUDL.TV. Subscribe today and support the league as we go into our second decade. Jeff Babbitt wasn't cutting initially, and Jack Williams' throw sails over everything, and that's hard to overthrow Jeff Babbitt, but easier if he's not cutting.
Well, I think Jack tried to throw Jeff open off the back of the stack and just put a little too much on it. It wasn't a bad idea, but Jack now overthrowing twice going that direction. Needs to recalibrate.
The DC Breeze have taken their final timeout with just under 9 minutes to play. But it's another opportunity, and you don't know how many you're going to get from New York. Trailed by 3 moments ago. Boxley to Ort, got the Breeze within 2. Can the O-line work it down and get us to a 1-goal game? That's what the fans are hoping for here in DC. Another excellent crowd on this beautiful evening in our nation's capital. DC on offense after the Jack Williams error. And Johnny Malks will initiate for the Breeze. Thomas Edmonds coming underneath. Quickly reset back for Aroy. And the swing for Wodach. Ort, Monroe, and Jurek downfield on this line, but haven't touched the disc yet.
Good defense by New York, forcing that really deep reset.
Randolph's on Ort. And all the way back to the doorstep of the end zone.
That's been their only option.
Remember the season opener last year, Charlie, when Antoine Davis had some amazing blocks in his Empire debut that basically swung the game?
Sure do. It's good patience here from DC, but they need something.
Wodach looking long. Ort near the sideline. He's got it! Breeze within 1. How about Wodach?
The veteran connecting with the rookie. Incredible stuff for this DC subbed-in offense. They go 2 for 4 on their timeouts tonight, and this couldn't have been a bigger play. I mean, what a throw from Wodach to fade this out to the sideline. Great fundamentals from Ort going up with the right hand. A little fist pump, big time.
And Ben Katz obviously is one of the craftiest defenders in this league, but Wodach saw the mismatch with Ort and Katz from a size perspective and let the young kid from the Netherlands make the play.
Put it out in front, let him run it down, and if you hang it a little bit, you expect him to be able to go up and make that play over the top of Ben Katz.
Talking International Ultimate, World Flying Disc Federation announced today that the 2024 World Championships are headed to the Gold Coast, Australia, the eastern edge of Australia. That's August, September 2024. Looking forward to that. About a year and 3 months from now. Ben Ort, I imagine, will be there leading the Netherlands national team.
Rowan almost came up with a big poach block. Sets the double team. A little pressure here.
Boxley out there on defense. Feeling the footsteps, Rushmeyer Bailey, and a little touch foul. Boxley with a grin. After all the physicality we've had tonight, you're going to call that?
Yeah, surprising whistle there.
Dangerous reset, Jasper Tom. We've seen him get big blocks in big games. Tom, stride for stride with Williams, but Jack finds a way to shake free. Here's Oliver Chartok. Really incredible the job he's done tonight on the O-line in place of his older brother, Elliott. Steady, playmaking, like he's been on this line forever.
And no turnovers. Dominator for New York again.
McDonald couldn't get there on Williams. Cranston guarding Osgar in the reset space, but there's only so much you can do. End zone, Babbitt again.
No answers for Jeff Babbitt. He is just too fast across the face of the goal, and he just keeps waiting until the perfect moment. His timing is so good. Jack's got it. Bounces to Osgar, and you can't see it here on the screen, but Babbitt initiates that cut right on time, explodes away, multiple defenders too late.
5th goal of the night. 4 of the 5 have been here in the second half for big number 87, Jeff Babbitt.
6th assist for Ryan Oscar.
Yeah, this has been something of a vintage Oscar game.
What a pull.
Incredible. DC with a long way to go. Breeze at one point tonight were 2 of 6 on their hucks. They've connected on their last 3. They're now 5 for 9 in that department, which is a much better percentage than they've been the first 2 weeks of the season. Can they dial up another deep shot here? Malks holstered it. Ben Ort's being guarded by John Randolph downfield, and he's guarding him all under. Wanting it deep, here we go. Ort to the deep space. Oh yeah! Johnny Malks with a dime. Breeze within 1.
Is Ben Ort the answer for this DC offense?
He just might be.
They have been missing the player to open up the deep space. It's been a big problem for them through the first 2 weeks, and now they finally have somebody that they can just send deep and air it out to.
And the New York defense was asking for this throw all possession long. Randolph was baiting it.
And he thought he was going to be able to catch up, but it's another perfect throw. I mean, New York watched the tape. They probably watched all of the turnovers from this DC offense and said, hey, we're happy to have you huck against us. But there's a new player out there, Ben Ort. Great receiver, shown up big today. And now it just comes down to, can your D-line go out there and get a takeaway? New York's mistakes have been throwaways. It's been overthrows. The last 2 turns, both Williams, hucks too far. When they haven't made those choices, they've not really turned it over that much.
5 minutes to go. 1 goal game. New York and DC. We've seen this show before. Cranston on Oscar. Floats it for Williams. Tom on the mark. Weinberg. Lithio. Bumped inadvertently by Merrill. No whistle. Oh, nearly a block for McCutcheon, but not quite. Weinberg to Williams. Empire certainly in no particular hurry as long as they can keep completing passes. Possession just over a minute gone as Osgar bolts up the field and takes care of business. He carves up his opponent with his throws, and then when you're least suspecting it, he dissects the D with his legs.
Well, you think about it, he's been operating in the backfield in the Dominator set, and so it's actually not an anticipated cut there. And so Cranston just gets beat in the foot race because he's thinking about Osgar coming back across the face to try to get the little under. And it's just a great move from Osgar, taking advantage of the opportunity, knowing he has Cranston with a step behind him up the sideline.
Let's quickly bring back in Will Smolinski down in the field, former Breeze coach, AUDL analyst. Will, it's been a wild second half. What have been your observations from the sideline?
Yeah, Ben Ort, wow. I mean, we talked about going vertical in the third quarter, and Ben Ort has definitely served that role. It's especially impressive because he had an almost drop on a huck on his first one, and then he had one that he kind of went up for a little bit too early on an in cut. And for a young player like that to kind of get their wits about them and then come up as big as he has for the next 3 catches he's had was, more than I think anyone expected for their first experience out with this team.
What impresses you most about the New York offense and how they're unflappable?
Yeah, they're cool under pressure for sure, especially in tight windows. Being down on the field, it gives you another perspective of, Rowan over here lays out, and he is maybe an inch and a half from a D. And the cool and collected, being able to put it out there, but also on the catch, staying focused on just executing the play, and then looking up and finding that next cutter and flow.
That's well said. Oh, Brenton Tan gets a piece of it, and Ort catches it anyway. That's the 4th goal of the 4th quarter for the Dutch import Ben Ort. And he has almost single-handedly kept the DC Breeze in the game. We got 3.5 to play. New York cling to a 1-goal lead. It's crunch time. Rowan McDonald getting ready to pull. DC needs a break to tie New York up. There have certainly been some dramatic overtime moments between these two teams through the years. Empire have led by as many as 3. They've led the entire second half, but DC's not going away. Roy with a hammer to Ort to bring the Breeze within 1 again at 15-14. Earlier today on this field, the DC Shadow of the Premier Ultimate League, the women's team victorious over the Philly Surge. DC trying to sweep the doubleheader and end New York's long winning streak, and they will have a chance to tie after the first mistake of the night from Oliver Chartok.
No O-line coming to save you here, but they've got Boxley on the field, Rowan picking up. They have the players to go out there and get this break.
Joe Merrill played a lot of offense for the Breeze 2 years ago. Here's Rafus looking for a reset. Merriman. This game has not been tied since the score was 5-5 with 90 seconds to go in the first half. McDonald for Merriman. New York in a junky look. Sizzling forehand connects. And we are tied with 2:12 to go.
What a counterattack. Fans going crazy here. DC levels it, and we've just seen this game play out so many times over the last 3 seasons. Just a miscommunication there. Chartok's first turn of the game, and then Rowan marshaling the offense. And it's A.J. Merriman who's willing to take that inside forehand shot into the end zone for Merrill. Great find, no fear, tie game. Timeout down on the field.
New York takes a timeout, allows them to use their top line here with everybody getting a breather. Wow. New York was up 13-10 after Jeff Babbitt scored with 10 minutes and 14 seconds to go in this 4th quarter. Been a 5-2 run for the Breeze to even this thing up.
It's just 3 breaks now for DC, but it's been that kind of game. 2 breaks here late to get back to even. And you got to think the players out here all thinking about last year, the last time they faced off in the playoff game, a very similar situation, a little more time on the clock. But New York able to come away with a buzzer beater win.
It was Ben Yacht, the birthday buzzer beater, his 30th birthday, August 20th of last year at Focina Field in New Rochelle. We tick under 2 minutes play. Ben Yacht is out there on offense for this critical Empire possession. And Merriman blocked it cleanly. Oh my, DC with McDonald. Looked like he had Cranston, looked him off. Dangerous reset, but it gets to Bergeron. Merriman for Bloodgood to the end zone for the lead. Yes! Colin McLaughlin, his first goal of the season, and the Breeze take the lead with 1:32 to go.
Unbelievable stuff. Ben Yacht out there on offense, and just Merriman able to come up with a huge point block, and then they were totally scrambled, and they go into the end zone. McLaughlin pulls it down with Babbitt footsteps behind him. Wow.
Wow is right. A.J. Merriman, the defensive player of the year in this league in 2021. To say he had a disappointing 2022 is an overstatement because he was still a very, very good player, but didn't have quite the impact he had 2 years ago. But that is all AUDL caliber crunch time play.
Back to back. He hits the inside forehand for the assist a moment ago to get the tying break, and then able to come up with the clutch block to put them ahead.
How much does the Empire offense have left in the tank here? Back-to-back breaks from the Breeze. DC up 1. Who saw this coming? Oh, McDonald soaring by, almost got the block.
And New York here can just be patient. They have a lot of time. Frankly, they would like to score with less than 10 seconds on the clock and think about trying to take this thing to overtime.
Here's Weinberg. Bergeron defending Weinberg as he gets it back. Ruschmeyer-Bailey with Rafis trying to cut off that around. Into the teeth of the defense. Williams to Yacht. 40 seconds to go.
And you can burn clock here. You do not have to hurry to score once you're in the red zone. Go into that dominator and quick score there. And it almost looks like they let Babbitt get open, but perhaps a whistle. No, it's a score. So DC perhaps savvy there, letting Babbitt get open at the front of the end zone. And now they'll get the disc back with their O-line with 30 seconds on the clock. Plenty of time for them to go out there and close out this game.
If they did let him do it, it's obviously a risk because there's more time for you to make a mistake, and you could lose the game in regulation too.
It's true.
6 goals tonight for Babbitt. Jeff Babbitt's played more points than anyone else in the Empire tonight. Played some end of quarter situations. He'll be out there again here. Owners of the New York franchise, Paul and Barbara Stevens, sitting right in front of us in the stands, looking a little nervous right now. Their 17-game winning streak is on the line. DC receiving in a tie game, 30 seconds to go. Secure catch of the pull from Edmonds over to Malks. Brownlee on the mark. 10 seconds into the possession. New York has stymied DC so far. They've got 80-something yards to go in 14 seconds. Ort with no mark.
Well, you can't have a short field turnover, so you'll just let the clock run out here.
Ort's going to need to launch it the full length of the field, trying to channel the greatness of Will Chen. This throw is denied by Babbitt, and overtime is the story in DC.
Wow. So interesting. The personnel on the field there for DC. No Rowan. You know, you've got Edmonds taking the centering pass. I don't think they were necessarily looking to really push. They never got the offense started. They basically never left the end zone.
You focused on the DC side of it. I thought that was masterful,
brilliant
technical defense from New York, forcing DC to do exactly what the Empire wanted them to do, which is let Jeff Babbitt defend an 80-yard prayer. And Jeff Babbitt doesn't like prayers.
He's not answering yours if you don't play for the New York Empire.
All right, 5 more minutes on the clock here in our nation's capital. The Empire and the Breeze to overtime we go. Back here at Carlini Field, DC and New York heading to overtime, tied at 16. And it looks like DC just chose to receive, which means the Breeze will start this overtime period on offense. Another classic brewing. Evan Lepler, Charlie Eisenhood want to bring back in Will Smolinski down on the sideline. Will, just curious for your late observations, what you're seeing from a fatigue factor as we head into minutes number 49, 50, and beyond here tonight.
There's a couple breaks in a row kept New York's O-line out there for a couple points, and even watching them through their resets, you can see that they're really having trouble kind of getting the motivation to cut and move in the backfield because the DC reset defenders are just making them work so hard. It's going to be interesting to see here what happens if they try to go vertical early to try to deal with some of the fatigue they had coming out of the fourth quarter.
Appreciate that, Will. Remind you what we are watching tonight and how it will impact this East Division. The Boston Glory overcame a 7-goal deficit early today, so the folks from Beantown get to 2-0, 2 home wins. DC and New York, one of them will be 3-0. Will it be the Empire who win their 18th straight game, or can the Breeze seize control of this division as we head toward June?
5 minutes on the clock for overtime. New York will receive if we go to double OT. Keep that in mind.
'30th all-time meeting between these two teams. A bunch have been to overtime, including a controversial one in New York that was adjudicated improperly in terms of timeouts, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole right now. Andrew Roy, marked by Marquez Brownlee. Malks coming underneath, chased by Breton Tan. Difficult blade works. Rowan McDonald on the sidelines for this first point of OT as Roy squeezes it through to Malks right in front of the Empire bench. It's Monroe. Little hop throw to the sideline. Jurek, greatest. Out of bounds. Heck of an effort, errant throw, and a killer mistake for the Breeze to start OT.
Both teams have 1 timeout in each overtime period, so New York could think about burning it here.
They've been perfect on their timeouts tonight in terms of converting after the call with their O-line on the field. Brownlee not waiting for the timeout. Yacht and Monroe jostling. Ort coming too, and Yacht skies them both. Ben Yacht going to the ceiling.
That was absolutely nasty from Ben Yacht. Ethan Fortin with the spike on behalf of Ben Yacht.
And an unsportsmanlike called, I think, a little shove from Tyler Monroe on Matt Stevens, who came charging on the field. We'll get that sorted out.
Good effort from Cole Jurek on the greatest. Can't keep it in bounds, and then Yacht against 2 defenders, bodying, charging, and going up over the top. Unbelievable catch. A lot of contact. And then just dishing it into the end zone for Fortin, who bombs it into the ground. What a score. New York back in front.
Wow. That Ben Yacht avatar is something else.
He's going to be wearing the cape tonight if they win this one after that play.
It looks like a sensei or something. 17-16, New York leads.
It's a pretty nice way to erase the memory of getting point blocked at the end of regulation.
Unsportsmanlike called against DC. Monroe shoved Stevens, who came charging onto the field for the D point. That's upcoming, so officials getting situated. Haven't seen too many pulls from midfield in the AUDL, but we've seen a couple tonight.
Interesting to see what the approach is here. Do you go roller?
Scott Zhu trying to keep this blade in bounds, trying to make it difficult to catch. He will do it. Malk centers to Edmonds. McDonald is out there on offense now after the Empire break to begin the OT. And sometimes you just kind of run out of words to describe greatness, and that Yacht catch there through all the contact. Some that he created, some that the 2 defenders created. I love the no call there. And a timeout taken by Ort with nowhere to go in his Breeze debut. A memorable night Wonder if the folks in Amsterdam are still up.
Well, you know,
around 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I bet they are. How could you turn this one off? The thing is, you know, you don't want to have to use the timeout in this spot, but it's much better than getting stalled out. And I don't think he had an option. And so he decided, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and reset the stall count. Let's talk about it. Come up with a play. The offense was a little out of sorts. New York defense really ratcheted up here.
Remember, the field of play is from NPL and restaff play. Please remain in the stands. Our players can come to you.
We talk a lot about, you know, the psychology in sports, in the mental game. I mean, if you're the Breeze here, like, is this a game where win or lose, you've taken New York to the brink, you know you can do it, or is this just a crushing emotional defeat if you don't get the win?
You know, it'll be disappointing given the way that they were in a position to win the game at the end of regulation, but I don't think it will be crushing. I think they'll be excited for the next one and know that they'll be able to compete with this team throughout the season.
And the Breeze's final possession of regulation reminded me a lot of the Celtics' final possession in Game 4 in Philadelphia when they didn't get a shot off. Wodach. And he was hand blocked. He's asking for a foul, and he's going to get one. Kreider, the trailing head official, gives the foul. Would have been interesting to see if Yacht would have granted the foul, but we won't get that opportunity. Wodach maintains the disc. Yacht and Katz, the two bends on the double team. Crossfield hammer. Davis is hunting it, and able to make the clean catch. Over to McDonald. The former AUDL MVP, Rowan McDonald. Little throw and go with Thomas Edmonds.
Look at the gravity of Rowan. He just took 3 defenders with him.
Sure did. Malks blades it to Boxley. Over to Ort. It's amazing how you've seen Ort's confidence grow as this game has progressed. DC ties it with $1:30 and change remaining.
Wow, that's great defense from New York and just steady, patient offense. DC using the timeout to figure things out. And then nice usage of some creative throws. Moving the disc sideline to sideline and then getting the easy score. But it's all going to come down to this DC D-line once again. 1:34 to go. Definitely enough time here for maybe 2-3 more scores here in overtime.
If you're New York, do you do something like try to work for the final shot and bleed clock?
I think only if you're getting down into the red zone with under 30 seconds to go, but you don't want to have to be trying to throw a million passes for a minute. I think you run normal offense here and see where you are once you get into the red zone.
Bloodgood apologetic for the contact on the centering pass, and he calls the foul on himself. Bloodgood, one of the classy guys in the league. Williams gives it back for Rushmeyer Bailey. Clock ticking here, doesn't stop till a minute to go. And another piece of contact on Bloodgood. The clock's going to tick toward a minute.
Oddly, this isn't really that bad for DC.
Osgar, guarded by Cranston. To Chartok. Oliver, not Elliott tonight. Elliott unavailable. Oliver joins the team, and there's some more contact. Tom with the bump. That's 3 contact fouls on this possession.
Well, 46 on the clock here. So, you know, New York's going to have it centered on the goal line. And now you could think about trying to burn clock, but I think you just take your score when you can get it, given that you're going to take the lead.
If you're DC, do you give them the score? Probably not. You don't want to give them the lead, but you also need some time if they do take the lead. It's an interesting situation. Williams throwing near the poach, but it's Babbitt beating Musaj out of the spot, and New York's back in front. 29 seconds left.
I don't need to be able to read lips to know that he just told us that he owns that front cone. He has been unbelievable tonight getting to this spot. He does it again. Williams just waiting for something to open up, and look at Babbitt explode through 2 defenders again. And, you know, it's not as flashy as the Ben Yacht Sky, but man, has he been impressive. And he is so fired up as New York takes the lead. Under 30 seconds to go here in overtime.
And it looks like New York is using its time out here, which is interesting because it also gives DC a chance to talk. This is basically the situation at the end of regulation, except the game was tied when DC received the disc, and they ended up with an 80-yard prayer. Now they need to score. They've got 29 seconds, virtually the same amount of time, and they need to do something different than what happened last time.
Yeah, I think the psychology is so different, though, Evan. You know, before, they were just thinking, we can't turn it over in our own half. We cannot give up a score here. If we go to overtime at home with all our fans here, so be it. Here, obviously, they have to press the issue. So I think we're going to see much more aggressive offense and probably a lot smoother flow than we saw at the end of the fourth quarter.
Another Empire Breeze classic down to the wire. Now, if DC can score and we go to double overtime, New York would receive because they pulled to begin this overtime period. Yacht with a twirling pull. Pulling a page out of Eric Taylor's book right there. Malks quickly gains some yards and gets it right back. Shooting it deep for McDonald, but Babbitt is lurking. Randolph and Babbitt defensively. Babbitt takes care of it. 15 seconds to go. New York's a couple completions from walking out of here. Cats with 10. Needs one more. A triple team is going to be called with 7 seconds to go. And that should just about do it.
I'm speechless at the decision from Johnny Malks.
One more completion will officially end it. Marquez Brownlee at midfield, back to Babbitt, and an emphatic fist pump. An emotional road win in overtime. And the Empire's winning streak will continue. An 18-17 overtime win for New York's 18th straight win. And the defending champs are still number one.
What a win, and you can see how much it means to the team. Jeff Babbitt, I haven't seen him this fired up since the playoffs. What a game from these two teams. And it's a bizarre end of overtime situation. You think about all of the times throughout this game where DC had an opportunity to make a big play. When they take a timeout and they're coming out with their O-line, when we get to the end of the first half, when we get to the end of regulation, when we get to the end of overtime, and they come up empty in every spot, and that's just enough for New York to come away the victors.
Empire win it by 1 in overtime here in DC. Quick break, and then we're back to chat with Jeff Babbitt. The New York Empire are still perfect in 2023. They've won 18 straight since the loss in the 2021 AUDL championship game. Took 5 extra minutes tonight, but New York good enough to get it done. 18-17, the Empire win. Jeff Babbitt kind enough to join us down to the field. Jeff, obviously a lot of emotions. How would you characterize the tone, tenor, and spirit of this game?
Oh my goodness, Evan. This is always a treat to come to DC when they come to us. What a rivalry we have. The number of overtime, double overtime, 1-point games we play them is unreal. It's always tense, it's always high level, and I absolutely love it.
7 goals for you tonight, Jeff. 3 blocks, and so many of those goals coming at the front cone, exploding across the face of the end zone. What did you say on that last score in that corner after you scored the go-ahead goal?
I think I yelled a big expletive, and I said, "This is my cone. Another expletive stopped me."
You're glowing and glistening right now. We can see the steam and heat coming off you. What was the intensity of this game like, and how did you all recover? Because you had a 3-goal lead that you let slip away. DC had a lead, but you guys are the winners at the end of the night. How'd you do it?
I mean, I got to give so much credit to the D-line and Ben Yacht for an unbelievable play to take the lead, take a break to start the overtime. I mean, I think we knew we could win this game, but that gave us so much energy. Ben did what he's done for years, being an MVP caliber player, and just made it one of the most unbelievable big moment plays that we know he can make.
Jeff, can you take us back to the decision a year ago? It was like after the third game of the year that you and Ben switched lines, and it seemed to work out really well for everybody. But, like, how did that decision come to be, and how has it worked out the way it has?
Yeah, I think, we thought about the composition of our team and, the ability to get breaks with Yacht on the line. As a more talented thrower than I am and a bigger motor, he can run that defense on a turn in a way that I really couldn't after working all point. And I'm generally pretty good with the disc. I wouldn't say so for the first half of tonight, but we traded off a good deep both sides of the field, some higher percentage throwing for me, and a better motor on defense for Benny.
How do you get ready for the next game against DC? We're already looking ahead to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a lot of film. We're going to have a lot of conversations with the O-line. I think the O-line is not super happy with how we played tonight. I think we made some good adjustments going into the second half. We had a nice huddle at halftime. And if we can key in on those adjustments heading into the next game, watch a bunch of film, make sure we're all ready to go, that's going to be the game plan. But we know every time it's going to be playoff atmosphere.
What was it like mixing Elliott's brother Oliver onto the O-line tonight? He had the one mistake late, but otherwise he was pretty in flow with everybody else.
Yeah, Oliver's been great. We've been lucky to have him in practice for a fair number of reps, and he's done a great job sort of being an important role player for us, and I think he did an awesome job tonight. I'm not worried about that turnover.
All right, Jeff, last thing. I think tonight was your 85th game in the AUDL. You've been a part of some magical moments in this rivalry, playing for the Empire in the postseason. How does tonight compare with some of the other top memories you've had in this league?
This is a big one, but it could be recency bias. I feel good about it. I mean, the second half our O-line played, I'm extremely proud of. I think we worked on some things that are going to really carry us through the rest of the season in a lot of the big games we have in Colorado, Salt Lake, against Atlanta at home. I'm just proud of us and excited to keep going.
Well, tonight was the first of 4 straight on the road, so look forward to watching you and seeing you back when you guys host the Hustle in June. Get some rest, have a safe travels back home, and I look forward to seeing you down the road. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you both.
Jeff Babbitt. There aren't too many guys like him in this league, in this sport, in this world. What a game. Babbitt finishes +8 with 7 goals and 3 blocks. Ryan Osgar, game best +9 with 6 assists, 2 goals, a block, and no turns. Charlie, we were privileged to witness another classic between these two teams. Put a bow on it for me.
Wow. I mean, this is the first blow in the 2-game series this season, and we know these teams are going to face off in the playoffs one way or another. And I can't wait for all of those upcoming matchups. What a performance from some of the big stars for this New York team. Babbitt, Yacht, Williams, fantastic stuff. Little extracurriculars. It's going to be fun when we head to New York, and it's DC, New York in June.
They will play the final night of June, the June 30th. That's a ways down the road. Both teams have a lot of interesting challenges between now and then. We thank you for joining us. This one certainly lived up to the hype as we expected it would. For our entire crew, for Will Smolinski down to the field, for our statistician Tyler Byram, for my broadcast partner Charlie Eisenhood, Evan Lepler saying so long and good night from DC, where the New York Empire's winning streak is still alive. In overtime, New York wins it 18-17 in another East Division classic between these two powers. Good night. Have a great weekend.